بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Last time we did the conditions that validate the Friday prayer, the conditions that obligate the Friday prayer, and we did the sermon and its sunan. And we mentioned that some of these things are sunan for the Hanafis and a rukun for the Shafi'is. So the question last week was which one of these are a rukun? So there are 5 of them. The first is that the hamd in the khutbah is a rukun. So saying Inna alhamdulillah, right, or alhamdulillah. Just this much is a rukun in the khutbah. The second rukun is sending the blessings on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. This much is a rukun. Asking the people to have taqwa. So you will see that typically the khatib recites the 3 commonly read ayat in the khutbah that reminds people to have taqwa. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. This is in itself a rukun. And these 3 things are a rukun in each of the sermons. So there are 2 sermons. Each of them have to have these 3 components. Okay? The 4th rukun is reciting 1 verse of the Quran. My teacher that taught me how to do a khutbah, he said you should do 1 ayah and 1 hadith. But 1 hadith is not a rukun. It is 1 ayah that is a rukun. Obviously, in giving people a tadhkir and reminding them, you will recite a hadith. So, that is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The last sunnah is a dua. And it is important to note that for the Shafi'is, this dua must specify the hereafter. So if the dua is only for the dunya, then the rukun is not done. So these 5 things are a rukun for the Shafi'is. We mentioned all of these are a sunan for the Hanafis. So inshallah, this week we will discuss some things that are recommended and some things that are disliked in Jumu'ah, and time permitting we'll try and do Eid as well, inshallah. So we mentioned previously that it is obligatory to head towards Jumu'ah when the first adhan is called. A'immat al-thalatha said that you have to head towards Jumu'ah with the 2nd adhan. When is the 2nd adhan given? When the imam goes to the pulpit, right? So we said it becomes a faridah on the people to head towards Jumu'ah in the 2nd adhan. And as I said previously, the person needs to use their common sense, right? So if they are living a distance away, then they need to leave early. They shouldn't wait for the adhan to be called and then go out. As soon as this adhan is called, then buying and selling becomes haram. Okay? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ فَاسْحَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. Now it's important to note here that if the bay'ah is involved in the preparation of Jumu'ah, then it is valid. So let me give you an example. You're coming for Jumu'ah and you take an Uber. Isn't the Uber a bay'ah of some kind? It is a sale, right? He has given you a service and you are paying him money. And we said that if the adhan is called, then bay'ah becomes invalid. But you're using the Uber to get to Jumu'ah, then that will be valid. And the reason that the bay'ah has become invalid is because if you consider that who was the Quran revealed upon, the Prophet ﷺ, and who was around him, it was the Muhajirin and the Ansar. What were the things that they were good at? It was 2 things. Buying and selling, the Quraysh were very good at that, and farming, the Ansar were very good at that. But both thing involves, even farming involves, well, you get things to sell them, right? So at the end of the day, both of them will involve some kind of buying and selling. And so all kinds of business activity was told to stop. So if we extrapolate that, all kinds of work should stop as well, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, don't do bay'ah and don't do this and don't do this. But when He says don't do bay'ah, it's understood after that, don't do other activities that distract you from coming to Jumu'ah. And so people have asked multiple questions of, I have a job and my boss does not allow me to go for Jumu'ah and so on and so forth. And the general principle is that a person should look for rizq, for a kind of work where he is reliably able to go for Jumu'ah. And the exception to the rule will be emergency services, such as firefighters, policemen, soldiers in the army, doctors, nurses, that kind of thing that are in emergency services. Not all kinds of doctors. I'm a doctor that doesn't do emergency services, so I'm not accepted, right? I have to come for Jumu'ah. In general, someone is, trying to save someone's life, he's not going to say, okay, I'll let you die and I'll go for Jumu'ah. You can't do that, right? But in general, apart from emergency services, buying and selling ceases. Understand that Imam Abu Hanifa, this is a technical thing. For those who are students of knowledge, understand the technicality of things, okay, as well. Someone gave me the comment the other day that your talks are too technical. I said, okay, it's because I have, mashallah, intelligent people in front of me. And so, Imam Abu Hanifa says that though the bay'ah becomes haram, if someone does it, the actual sale is valid. I sold you a bottle of perfume after the adhan was given, the sale is done. You now have the perfume, I have the money, it is done. They become sinful for doing it, but it is done. Imam Shafi, on the other hand, he says that even the bay'ah itself is invalid. Okay? So understand this technicality, and he goes to that degree. So a person should be very careful of not doing any kind of sale. And in general, most Muslim countries, you will find that shops are open and trade is continuing, the prayer is going on, and people are doing things. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and it's amazing scenes. I remember one particular scene. We were going to the Haram, and we went for Umrah. We were going to the Haram. It was Ramadan, and we were fasting, and the adhan had not gone off. And so the brother was there. He was selling a box of dates. 20 riyals. And he said, okay, we'll move on. We have some dates, it's okay. The adhan started, and he turned around and he said, brother, eat some dates. Free now, eat some dates. You see the attitude, The attitude is one of trying to get the reward. As soon as he could do business, he did business. And as soon as he knew he cannot do business, he said, let me do the business with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And so the person has the correct attitude. When will the correct attitude happen? When you have knowledge, right? Okay. Let's move on to some things that are recommended and some things that are disliked during the khutbah. We mentioned previously that no prayer is allowed when the imam goes up to the pulpit, right? Except that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Imam Shafi did allow the prayer. But etiquette requires that a person does not come right in front of the imam and start praying here. Like, don't do that. This is not good etiquette to do that. Go to the side or somewhere where you're not disturbing the people. Similarly, no talking when the imam is giving the khutbah. And we mentioned last week that technically it is wajib to listen to the khutbah and not be fidgeting and making circles in the carpet. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lagha fala jum'ata lah." Man lagha, very easy hadith to memorize. Man lagha fala jum'ata lah. Whoever did laghu in the Jumu'ah, meaning he played with the pebbles, or he played with his clothes, he played with his cap, he did something else, right? He gets no reward of Jumu'ah. Right? So like we do khushu in the prayer, we make sure that we're not moving, we make sure that our eyes are, staying ahead, We make sure that we don't start, fixing our clothes or scratching our nose. We try our utmost to protect the prayer. Then the Jum'ah itself needs protection. And this is something that vast majority of people don't take care of, particularly the children. And they need training that they don't do these things, right? And the issue with the children is that they are naturally fidgety, right? They want to move. It's very hard for them to sit still. So it requires training that a person before Jum'ah reminds the child that you're coming for Jum'ah, sit still, and I don't want to be telling you to be quiet and stop playing this. I want to enjoy my Jum'ah, and you learn to enjoy your Jum'ah as well. Even if you find the khutbah boring, then try and pay attention. And because the khutbah is a reminder, but in itself is a form of ibadah as well, right? So it needs taking care of. So similarly, eating, drinking, and fidgeting are all makruh during the khutbah. It is disliked, makruh, to leave the masjid after hearing the adhan. Similarly, it is makruh to leave the masjid after the adhan of any prayer, but more makruh for Jum'ah. Except if a person has a haja, for example, he lost his wudu and he has to go and do wudu, or some emergency has happened. If he has a valid excuse, then he may leave for that reason. But otherwise, it will not be valid for him to leave the masjid after hearing the adhan. It is disliked for others to pray dhuhr in congregation in the same masjid where Jum'ah is being held. Okay? Even afterwards. Okay? And the reason for this is the confusion that it creates. Right? So Jum'ah is prayed here. Someone comes late, starts to pray dhuhr, and they do a congregation. Then people don't know what is happening. Is this Jum'ah happening? Is this dhuhr happening? And they become confused as a result of that. So understand another technical thing, right? I'm trying not to do technical things, but anyway, I'm failing. Your adab should be that people then do not see your faults. Your faults should be hidden, okay? So if a person has come late to the prayer and now he's doing it in Jama'ah, everyone is seeing that all these people are late in the Jama'ah. Now generally, it is okay that Jama'ah happened, for example, in Maghrib, that's okay. But in general, a person should try and come on time, and he comes to the prayer on time so that his faults are not seen by everyone. And so that's kind of one of the reasons that this is disliked. We said already, and I'll remind again, that a person to pray dhuhr on the day of Jam'ah, it is disliked for him to do so, right? Because the Jum'ah was fard on him. He was supposed to attend Jum'ah. But let's say he prayed the dhuhr, then the dhuhr is valid. But it is makruh for him to do that, right? So without a reason, he cannot just leave the Jum'ah and pray dhuhr instead. However, a person who missed Jum'ah, what will he do now? Will he pray 2 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah? 4 rak'ah, right? Except for the person who can attend a Jum'ah in another masjid. Or for example, that same masjid has another Jum'ah happening. Like in general, we don't have another Jum'ah here, right? But you go to Masjid Nur, they have 2, right? And you go to other places, they have 3. In the universities, they may have 4 or 5 Jum'ahs because of the time and the restricted space. So if there is a reason, such as a restricted space or something else, you can do multiple Jum'ahs. So if someone has missed the first Jum'ah, then they can attend the second one. Where there is no excuse, the masjid was large enough, there was no restriction, a second Jum'ah is not allowed, okay? And if someone does do a second Jum'ah, that second Jum'ah is not valid. He has to pray a dhuhr instead of it.
What if the kuppah is different? You want to listen to the kuppah?
You want to, okay, so you want to listen to the khutbah, that's different, but I'm talking about the praying of the Jum'ah, right? Yeah. Attending the khutbah itself is a different matter.
If in a place there is 3 or 4 Jum'ahs happening, can someone choose to go which one?
The most preferred Jum'ah will be the first one. That will be the most preferred one, right? But let's say for whatever reason, for his work or whatever reason, he cannot attend the first Jum'ah, but he can attend the second one or the third one, that will be valid for him to do that. Yeah. It's not makruh. So someone asked me this interested question about, what do people who don't have to attend Jum'ah, what do? Do they pray Dhuhr before the Jum'ah is prayed? Do they pray during it? They pray after it? It is recommended that for the excused person who does not have to attend Jum'ah, for example, the slave, the woman, the children, Jum'ah is not compulsory for them, right? The traveler, it's not compulsory for them. Then it is recommended that they pray the Dhuhr prayer after Jum'ah is completed. Okay? We talked last week, if someone is late for the Jum'ah and they missed part of Jum'ah, what do they make up? Do they make up 2 rak'ah or 4 rak'ahs?
Depends.
Yes?
If they catch up only the tashahhud,
Okay.
and there's with some mashayikh that they do 4 rak'ah.
Yes.
Otherwise, like with Hanafi and with majority, they do
Hanafis and Shafis say 2 rak'ah.
2
2 rak'ah. And the mu'tamad of the Hanafis is 2 rak'ah. Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani had the opinion that he prays 4 rak'ah, but that's not the mu'tamad. It's not the fatwa position.
Does it matter if it's like before the tashahhud time
No.
or after the tashahhud time?
No, it doesn't matter.
Because the tashahhud time.
Imam Muhammad has his opinion about the tashahhud time. But the mu'tamad of the Hanafis, you got there before taslima, then you just make up the 2 rak'ah. Keep it simple. Okay? All right. Some recommended actions on the day of Jumu'ah. Okay? So the first of all is obviously the ghusl for the Jumu'ah prayer. Understand that ghusl is not for the day of Jumu'ah, it is for what?
Prayer.
The prayer of Jumu'ah. So it is better then that the person does the ghusl as close as possible to the Jumu'ah prayer that he can, so that he has the ghusl from that he has done as he is going to Jumu'ah, rather that he took a shower at 6 o'clock in the morning and then he lost his wudu 3 times and then he went for Jumu'ah, right? However, it is not always going to be feasible that a person can take the ghusl and go to Jumu'ah immediately, because most people, as particularly living in the West, you are at your workplace. It's not feasible to take a ghusl and then get to Jumu'ah. So it is equally valid that a person does the ghusl on the day of Jumu'ah for the prayer. The cleaning of the hair. What hair is cleaned? It is the plucking of the hair in the armpits, the shaving of the hair in the pubic area, right? The plucking the armpit hair, the trimming of the mustache. All these things are a sunnah on the day of Friday before the prayer. Okay? So that a person does this on a weekly basis, rather than leaving it for, more time. The limit is that a person can leave these things up to 40 days, but not more than that. With regards to the mustache, the limit of the mustache is that it should not come below the lip line, right? You want to take it this way as far as you want, that's fine, but it should not come below the lip line. But as much as a person can, he trims it on the day of Friday, and he takes out his other personal hair on the day of Friday as well. Cutting of the fingernails and the toenails on the day of Friday is also a sunnah. Coming to the masjid with coming with the perfume. Okay? Now perfume has some interesting things to discuss there. So we can talk about it now if you're interested. Is that the Prophet ﷺ used to have perfume on, and the Sahaba Kiram also used to say that his sweat itself also used to have a sweet smell to it as well. Umar radiallahu anhu said that there is no harm if a person spends 1/3 of his wealth on perfume. He said he's not asked about that. And the Sahaba said there's no israf on perfume, right? So if a person desires to buy an expensive oud from, Indonesia or wherever else, that's equally valid. But not Gucci. I'm going to come to Gucci in a second, all right? However, you do not make it the case that you can't pay your rent and you can't eat your food, but you bought an expensive perfume. Like, this will be problematic, right? So it is from the sunnah that a person regularly has perfume on. What is the purpose of that? So that a person comes to Jumu'ah and the person next to him is not harmed from his body odor. So all these things, taking a ghusl, getting rid of the personal hair, is so that you are not harming the people who are next to you. So, we have this issue that people go to the workplace, they've worked outside, they've got like big sweat bags on, right? And then they're coming directly to Jumu'ah, and they are obviously harming people. And this is not something that is desirable. But obviously, they still need to attend the Jumu'ah. Now, there's an ikhtilaf on these Western sprays, are they valid to use or not? And the Hanafi opinion is very easy, they are valid to use. Okay? The Shafi'i have said that the alcohol in that is najis. Okay? However, they do allow that a person may use the Hanafi opinion on this. So you see that Muslims in general have used perfumes, throughout the Muslim world with denatured alcohol and have no issue with it. I remember coming to the masjid with perfume once, and a brother said that the perfume you're wearing is haram, you shouldn't be wearing this. I said, there's no issue. He said, no, it is haram. I said, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. So we don't need to make this a controversial issue. The reading of Surah Kahf is a sunnah on that day, and you may read it multiple times. So if you desire, you read it 4 times, 5 times. Surah Kahf. All of Surah Kahf on the day of Jum'ah should be read before Maghrib time. Sending the durood on the Prophet ﷺ, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, many times throughout the day is a sunnah. The dua is accepted on the day of Jumu'ah. What is that time? People have said multiple different opinions. So the Prophet ﷺ said that there is a sa'ah, there is a time where the dua is accepted on the day of Jumu'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not leave it. And so some have said is as the Imam is going up the pulpit, is going up the 2 or 3 steps, that kind of 10 seconds, that's when the dua is accepted. He said, oh Allah, let me get a 99 ATAR. That's kind of, you want to do the dua right then, right? Other people have said that when he is sitting between the 2 sermons, that is a time of the dua being accepted. Others have said that when he finishes the khutbah, as he is doing the dua, doing the khutbah, that is an accepted time. Some have said that between the last khutbah and the iqamah, and others have said that it is any time between Asr and Maghrib on the day of Jumu'ah. Why have they said this time? My opinion is this time. I don't have an opinion because I'm not a scholar, but I feel like this is the strongest opinion. And the reason for this is that the Asr to Maghrib time was a time when the Prophet ﷺ used to cut himself off from the world and used to do adhkar at this time, right? After Fajr until sunrise and Asr to Maghrib, he used to just do adhkar and dua at this time. So I feel like this is probably the strongest of the opinions. So typically people do not look after this aspect of Jumu'ah, of making dua in this time. So make this a change in your life, that you celebrate Jumu'ah every week like you celebrate Eid, right? So that you do dua and you do durood and you read Quran and you get your whole family to say, look, this is a time that no mucking around, no playing, sit down and everyone do this. So when you organize your family, then you get the environment where people are doing this. Okay, going early for Jumu'ah. The Imam that we had here last year, he said to us a lovely hadith that the person who goes to Jumu'ah early and he walks to Jumu'ah and he sits down until the Imam comes, then he gets the reward of tahajjud and fasting for the whole year, right? So it's a very great reward to come to Jumu'ah early. You should walk calmly to the masjid. Now herein, Sheikh Abdul Qadir from the Somali Musalla, he gave a very interesting point around this. And he's a very intelligent man, mashallah. He's one of my teachers. He said this hadith that you should walk calmly to the masjid proves that you cannot park your car illegally. And I said, like, okay, this is interesting. How is this? He said that walking calmly means that you left your house early, and secondly, you are not rushing to the masjid. The person who parks his car early, he left late and he's rushing to the masjid, and then he says, okay, I don't want to miss the prayer, so let me park illegally, and then he ends up harming 10 people. So he lost the reward of whatever he did, and he in fact got a sin of doing that. And the other hadith he brought, which was la darara wa la dirar. There's no harming and there's no being harmed. So you should not harm others and they should not harm you. And so parking illegally, blocking someone's driveway is clearly harming. So in Jumu'ah, there should be no illegal parking, no matter how far you have to walk from. In fact, the walking is the sunnah. Okay? So where possible, if you can walk to Jumu'ah from your house, you should be doing that. Not even the bicycle. Not even the, were you listening? Not even the bike. Got it? Okay, there's more reward for walking to the masjid. Okay, the last of the recommended actions of the Jumu'ah prayer is dressing in nice clothes. And white clothes are preferred. Okay? So if a person has white clothes, and that is what is preferred on the day of Jumu'ah. The Prophet ﷺ used to wear white clothes. Secondly, the white is the most difficult color to maintain. Right? As soon as you get anything on it, it becomes easily visible.
So it's a way to stay clean up.
Sorry?
It's a way of a method to stay clean up, because you know it's going to get...
Good point. I wasn't thinking of that, but yes, it's a way of maintaining your clothes and remaining clean.
When I wear it, I
Yeah.
always try to stay so clean.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
it's white.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a very good point. And the second of that is when you learn to maintain white clothes and keeping them clean, then you realize that your heart, when it becomes dirty, is just like dirt on white clothes. Okay? And so the way you look after your clothes and keep them spot-free, and you learn that you don't want any defects in your character, you don't want any sins, because that is like dirt on white clothes that are on your heart. So it is something that is from the Sunnah to be doing that. Okay. That is Jumu'ah prayer done. Any questions?
I have one question. If you fell during the khutbah,
Yeah.
if you fall asleep,
Yes.
what will happen?
So it's a deficiency, obviously, to do that. It is, some of these things are sometimes uncontrollable. So I give khutbah every week, alhamdulillah, and every week someone falls asleep without, it's guaranteed that there are 2 or 3 people that will fall asleep. So I know that one person falls asleep because he has a condition, and that condition means that he falls asleep. Every time he sits down, he falls asleep. So he's maghfur, he's forgiven, right? But other people fall asleep because they have no interest in the khutbah, right? And this is makruh, right, to do that. So the utmost ability that you should put in to try and listen. No matter how boring the khatib is, no matter how bad the khatib is, try your best to listen. Obviously, the khatib should be someone who is skilled in talking to the people, right? The way I am talking to you right now cannot be the same way I do my khutbah. And the way I do my khutbah cannot be the same way I give my medical lecture. It's going to be a very different skill set, right? And so it is recommended that a talib al-ilm, watches how the alim gives the khutbah, how he gives the dars, how he gives other things. So he learns how to talk to different people in different ways, right? And the content matters as well. Some khatib, you find that they have 10 khutbahs and they just keep recycling it, right? So there's no new content. After every 10 weeks, you're listening to the same thing all the time, right? And that becomes boring because you know it so well. That so it is part of the skill of the khatib that he tries and changes things and gives people new information, and his delivery style should be to the degree that people are engaged with the khutbah. But the utmost should be that you don't fall asleep.
So I've got 2 questions.
You got 2 questions. People who raise their hands go first. I'm not sure who raised their hands. You can go first, yes.
And you see, some khutbahs are a little bit provocative.
Okay,
Because in certain area,
Yeah.
or in our world,
Yes.
Muslim world, there
Yeah.
are conflicts.
sure.
So if the speech is
Related to that.
related to that,
Yeah.
following and condemning the others, and others, and the people are not the same idea about this.
No.
So that has
Yeah, one of my teachers, one of the teachers who taught me how to do a khutbah, this is like 25 years ago, he used to call them TV khutbahs. You know, that the khatib would watch the TV and then come and say to the people that, you know, Al-Qudsu and all this. And the reality of the situation is that, you know, getting Quds back is not going to come through picking up arms, right? It doesn't come from that. And so you have to bring people back towards taqwa to fix the problems of the world. So yeah, so to a degree, people need to be aware of the issues, right? So there is that component, but by and large, the purpose of the khutbah is tadhkir of what? About Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll do you and then I'll come to you. Yes. Yes.
2 questions.
Yes.
The first one you said for the people who don't have to pray.
Jum'ah. Yep.
Like women and children.
Yep.
So they will pray Zohar what time? Like,
After the Jum'ah prayer is done,
so they will do an estimate like this by this time.
yeah, I mean, look, so usually in Muslim countries, these things are on the loudspeaker, so people are hearing about it. And the other way is that, you know, the person that has gone to Jum'ah, he comes home and he informs the people that the prayer is done, you may pray Jum'ah. It is a recommended thing, it's not something that they must do.
And the second one is about the rakah.
Yes,
How many? Normally we pray two fardhs there,
yes,
but then we have sunnahs, we have nafil. So
sure. I think you missed last week, right? So we had 4 sunnah before Jum'ah and 4 sunnah after, right? This is for the Hanafis, right? The Shafis don't get confused right now. And then that's the sunnah muakkadas, and there's the 2 additional ghair muakkada before Jum'ah and 2 additional ghair muakkada after Jum'ah. So 6 before, 6 after.
So
Muakkada is after Fard is Muakkada, right? 4 sunnah and 2 sunnah.
4 before, 4 before, muakkada.
Muakkada.
Okay, prayed together with 1 taslima. The surah in every rak'ah. Okay? And 4 after as well. Prayed together, 1 taslima
And then
Okay.
2 sunnah.
and another 2 sunnah
And
afterwards.
they all are Muakkada.
No. The 4 and 4 are muakkada and the 2 are ghair muakkada. Shafi, we said, was 4 before and 2 after.
4 before,
And 2 after.
2 all separate, 2, yeah.
So they don't pray 4 together, right?
Yeah.
They don't pray 4 together. They pray 2, 2. Yes. I'll confirm it, inshallah. I'm sure I think it's 4 before and 2 after. Sorry, 4 before, 2 after. Sorry, 2 plus 2, Jum'ah, then 2.
This is Abu Hanifa.
Shafi.
That was the Shafi's. Hanafi's easy, 4, 4. Okay?
So this sunnah,
He has the right before you guys, yes.
The clothes, or like somebody's coming from work
Yes,
and he knows that it's not that clean and smelly, sweat and things.
sure.
So if he goes home, changes,
hmm
there's a risk of missing khutbah.
No, then he should not do that.
He should.
He should not do that. So always, when you learn the ulum, right, always have to understand what is the category of this ruling. Okay, there's something that is a farida, something there's a wajib. It is wajib to attend the whole khutbah. We mentioned this last week, right? Therefore, doing a recommended action to miss the wajib doesn't make any sense, does it? No. Okay, good. And that's why you learn what is wajib, what is sunnah, what is fard, what is recommended. And then you do them in that order. The order of priority is there. You had a second question?
Second question been answered.
Been answered. Alhamdulillah. You had a question as well? No. Okay. I'll do him, then I'll come to you. Yep. Yep.
When the sunnah is made after the adhan or when I come into the mosque.
Okay.
And you do it before.
The sunnah of Jumu'ah is after that first adhan. They do the first adhan when the time of dhuhr enters, right? And then you do the sunnah. Then there's the second adhan and then the khutbah. Okay?
So during the
So if
the Rasul, there was one adhan, see?
they used to do one adhan.
Start.
So when the time of dhuhr entered, they would do the sunnah. And when the Prophet ﷺ came, they would do the first adhan, because they had only one adhan.
Yeah.
And then they would do the khutbah directly after that. So when he would climb up, there would be no sunnahs at that point. They would be praying the sunnahs before the adhan. But that was after the entering of time of dhuhr prayer. Okay?
So what's the hukum of praying nafil after rawatib, or like before Jummah, before the,
You may pray as much as you want.
even after rawatib?
There's no issue. So the nafil prayers may be prayed as many as you like, as long as it is a permissible time to pray. Okay? It is the voluntary prayers, though, are recommended to be prayed at home. Why are they recommended to be prayed at home? Do you remember why?
Because of the hadith, maybe I missed it. So because of the hadith, don't make your houses like qubur.
Yeah. Don't make your houses like ghost houses, right? So where they are just devoid of any dhikr. You do all the dhikr in the masjid and no dhikr at home. So you pray the sunan and the fara'id in the masjid and then the voluntary prayers at home. Yeah, for example, the Prophet ﷺ used to pray the sunnah of Fajr at home. He would come in and directly start the fardh prayer in the masjid, right? So some have said that some of the sunnah prayers should be prayed at home as well. So it's not an issue. I missed you, I'm sorry.
Closure of the business.
Yes,
During Jummah time.
yes,
So it's like someone's individual responsibility, or if it's an Islamic state, the
Sure.
state also has the right to do it forcefully.
yes, of course
Like
they do.
in Saudi, previously it was like this, but
Yes.
I've heard now
Yes.
they are more relaxed about this.
The state has authority that depends on the scenario. That's a big subject by itself, right? So can they actually implement the had? That depends on whether they have brought about the economic scenario that it makes it, difficult to steal, for example, right? Do they have the authority to ban alcohol? Yes, they have the authority to do that. Can they go into someone's house and stop him from drinking? They don't have the authority to do that. Okay? So the state has limits to the authority that they have. So can they legislate that it's illegal to be doing business during Jumu'ah? They can, but let's say you have Christians living in the land. They don't come into that ruling, right? Or, for example, it is someone for whom Jumu'ah is not fard, then he may do business as well. So there's limits to those things. Can you close that? Yeah. Can you close that? Sorry.
That's what your son was.